Yo, what's up? This is Prince Sports here. All right, a lot of you guys watched The Last Dance last night. A lot of it is stuff that most people from that era already know about. I mean, it didn't show really nothing new or covered any ground that was foreign to anybody. But what I do want to talk about is Isiah Thomas. He was on First Take just morning, and he's been labeled as a hater. This is a narrative and a thing I like to break down, because at the end of the day, most people don't know the real truth. Most people say Isiah Thomas is a hater. He holds a grudge against Michael Jordan, and it's always going to be like that. But if you hear the man talk, okay, he's his own man. I mean, I don't know if he's holding a grudge or not. I think none of us would never know. All we could do is just voice our opinion. But all I could go by is what a guy tells me to his face. Okay? If a guy gets on TV and look at you dead in the face and telling the whole world that this is how I feel, you have to check it or respect it. You can't just go about saying the guy's a hater and you don't know him from a personal standpoint. Now, Isiah Thomas, I do believe a man has morals and ethics, okay? Especially when you come from a certain neighborhood. This guy comes from the west side of Chicago, okay? Now, that's similar to certain people that come from type of environments that I come from. And we have ethics and morals and rules that we go by. And he said on First Take, if I don't like something, if I'm this, I'm that, if I think you're this, you're that, I'm going to tell you to your face, And that's just me being the type of guy that I am, That's the West Side Chicago in me. I don't back down from nobody. That's what he says, right? So as a man, you have to take that, and run with it, because that's another man looking at you to the face and telling you his story, It's like old saying, all a man got is his word and balls, and he won't break that for no one. That's an old saying, right? Now, for him, when he says that, hey, I think what rubs people the wrong way about Isiah Thomas sometimes is because he doesn't worship Michael Jordan. Keep in mind, he views Michael Jordan just like most of us should review Michael Jordan as a man. I mean, Michael Jordan never was a god. He didn't create basketball and things of that nature. I don't understand when people get this obsessive attitude towards a superstar. This goes for LeBron. This goes for Kobe. I remember when Kobe was hot, and you had a lot of trolls for Kobe, and people on the internet used to call them Kobe-tards. Yeah, these over-the-top love fanboys of Kobe. Jordan has it. LeBron has it. A lot of these guys have these over-the-top fans that I don't know what is going on in their mind that they worship these guys. You can respect what a guy does for a living, but you should still keep it at a standstill. Don't worship another man. It's not what you put on this earth for. But he goes into detail, and he says on live TV he was hurt by the not going to the Dream Team thing, But you got to give him credit for speaking his mind and saying what he feels, I can't disrespect another man if he looks at me or he goes up to you as a man and tells you how he feels. And whether you like it or not, that's just how he views things. I can't call him a hater on that. I could be wrong. He could have some. I'm sure he has some competitive hatred towards Michael Jordan, but that's how it's supposed to be. When he says certain things like he beat Jordan, which is the truth, he beat Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird more times than they beat him. He's the only superstar that really could stand up and say, I beat Jordan. and he did it multiple times. So regardless of what tactics he was using and stuff like that, I understand that we don't respect the bad boy Detroit Pistons because they mix football with basketball. And it's not a respectable form of basketball. You're elbowing and you're pushing people down to the ground and this and that. It's like unhonorable. It's not, you can't honor that because it comes off as like, man, you're doing this stuff because you can't beat these guys. So the only way you could physically beat Michael Jordan was to hit him, And they admitted this several times by saying once Jordan got into the air, we couldn't do nothing to stop him. But his feet is planted on the ground first, and we make sure he stayed on the ground. So, this is stuff that they admit. So, if I say that's the only way the Detroit Pistons could have beat Michael Jordan, that's the truth, because realistically, Jordan was the best player in basketball from 1989, basically. He had everything on lock. He was winning Defensive Player of the Years. He was MVPs. He was all these individual accolades he was ranking up. And he was clearly the best player in basketball and the most unstoppable player in basketball. And the Detroit Pistons, unlike any other team, decide, hey, this is the way to beat Jordan was to physically beat him up, Now, I do admit that I think the media has portrayed the Detroit Pistons as the villains, and they kind of just ran with that, and they're going to stay running with that. They're not going to come off that, So I do think they get some unfair criticism, and the unfair criticism that they get, I think it's because they use that tactic and that style. But as I said many times, they embrace that. So you have to take the consequences of that, He also said the Chicago Bulls stole a lot of defensive schemes from the Detroit Pistons. They stole some of their talent. They had John Sally and Dennis Rodman, two guys that were defensive pieces for those championship Detroit Piston teams. And Dennis Rodman is one of the greatest rebounders of all time and a hell of a defender. And you can make a case. They probably wouldn't have won 3 championships in a row if Dennis Rodman is not on that team, because they still needed somebody to do things that Pippen and Jordan wasn't going to do. They need somebody to do the dirty work, and Dennis Rodman said this plenty of times. 1996, Dennis Rodman was on point when it comes to defense and rebounding, and I remember back when I was watching that 96 finals, a lot of people used to make the case and say, hey man, Dennis Rodman was the X factor. He was the main reason why the Bulls won that championship. To this day, the 1996 finals was Michael Jordan's weakest put in terms of effect on the game. As a guy that's been watching basketball since the 80s, I could tell you off the bat, and I said this many a times, everybody has a weakness. Jordan's weaknesses was guarding quick guards, okay? Guys that got up into him, but they were guards, little pesky guards. And who was more pesky than Gary Payton, all right? And Gary Payton gave Jordan fits. You don't believe that? Watch the 96 finals. That was Jordan's weakest display. He held Jordan to a certain lower field goal percentage. Jordan still got some of his points, but he got his points basically playing Kobe Bryant style basketball. He had a lot of inefficient nights and a lower field goal percentage that you're not normally used to seeing Jordan have in the finals. That was his weakest performance in the finals. But nevertheless, he still got over the hump and he got the job done. He affected the game in other ways. He played defense and stuff like that. So I give him credit on that. But rather it was Gary Payton, Allen Iverson, Kevin Johnson, all these guys gave Jordan fits. Even Vernon Maxwell gave Jordan fits because he was a smaller guard that got into you, and he was a little bit nuts. He was crazy. I don't know if some of you guys remember who Vernon Maxwell was, but he was another crazy dude. Man, that dude was crazy. But yeah, just taking me down memory lane a lot, you know, because I came up in this era. A lot of guys speak upon this, but they haven't watched these games live in the physical. You know, they just getting stuff on highlights and news. You know, Jordan also had a problem going left, dribbling with his left hand in his early years, and finishing left. He got better over time using his left hand. All right, and this was something the Detroit Pistons exploited. You know, they would make him go left. Jordan had problems passing off with his left hand too. He got better at these things. By 1991, Jordan was almost a complete basketball player from terms of on the offensive end. You know, I mean, he still had flaws. No matter how good you get, you're still gonna have flaws. You're still gonna be a certain category that you're not the best at in. You know, but Jordan was his work ethic is what stood out for a lot of guys, and you see his work ethic, and he had put that towards his players. But Isiah Thomas, do you guys think he's an actual hater, or he's just speaking his truth? You know, I don't know if we're going a little too hard on the guy. The guy's just giving you his opinion. And he has the right to criticize Michael Jordan. He put the work in. I mean, at the end of the day, he still beat him more times. And by 1991, Isiah Thomas was almost not the same. Oh, he's almost not the same player. He had problems with his wrist. He played that serious hurt. A lot of those guys were just beat up. And during the test of time, it was such a physical era. Your prime didn't last as long as you wanted it to last. Okay, that's a fact. A lot of guys' careers got cut short in the 80s and 90s because the game was so physical. This is why they tuck all that physical stuff out, because they want their stars to last. The NBA wants you to enjoy the superstars, and they want superstars to stay on the court. Isiah Thomas's career ended too early. Larry Bird's career ended too early. Magic Johnson's career ended too early. Even if he didn't get HIV, he still slowed down and was a little heavy set by 1991, and he was slower. But this is the effects of what guys were taking that came in the 80s. 80s had a lot of drugs, a lot of not fitness things. A lot of guys in the 80s didn't really stay that much fit. You know, they were in their prime, they had athletic ability just like anybody else, but that was very short-lived because a lot of them were taking drugs. A lot of them were partying, drinking alcohol, stuff like that. And you could see in their bodies that that's their natural athletic ability. That's not athletic ability taken care of by fitness and all the regimen that you do today. All right? So, even though by age-wise, the Detroit Pistons weren't considered out of their prime if you look at their ages. But keep in mind, basketball was different back then. You had wear and tear, and this team was going to the conference finals every year. They'd been to the finals almost every year. They had a chance to three-peat. In this case, they were defending their championship, trying to four-peat, going to the finals, you know. But and they had a legit chance to three-peat before Jordan did, you know. But a ghost call stopped them from three-peating. The league, what Isiah Thomas does say, the league didn't support him. He's right, because the league didn't want to get behind the Detroit Pistons. A lot of people from other walks of life, like the suburbs, they couldn't get behind a team like the Detroit Pistons. They've been labeled as thugs and things of that nature, you know. So, but a lot of guys that come from neighborhoods that I came from, they liked that style of basketball. That was like, you know, grimy, you know. But when you're in a professional setting and you're around business owners and they're trying to push their product, they don't want to push what the Detroit Pistons were selling. Michael Jordan was the face of the NBA, and the NBA wanted Jordan to replace Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. He was the guy that had next, you know. This happens even today, you know. Kobe Bryant was the guy that had next after Michael Jordan. The league was getting behind him. They was pushing him. But he got into trouble off court. That's his own doing, you know. And even if Kobe didn't get into trouble, he still wouldn't have passed Jordan. But at the same time, um, the debate would have been, I guess, at least stronger, you know. But I'll leave it off at that, you know. Leave your comments down below. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Is Isiah Thomas a hater, or is he being a man just telling you what his true opinions is? What you think?